let me tell you a little bit about Miss Stephanie. Stephanie lives in Henrietta with her husband, Scott. She is a Bellevue Eagle, yay for that, class of 1985. She said, don't do the math on that because none of us want to share our age, right? She comes from a big ranching family. She is a Christian and a lover of her Lord Jesus Christ. She says she's so blessed with the life that God has given her and all the miracles that she has seen in her short time here. She is going to share a couple of those miracles now. So if you gals will, just give a big round of applause for Miss Stephanie.
You're going to have to tell about Frankie's when we need more filler.
Oh, I got filler.
Oh, good.
Well, first of all, this is my original home church. And I was real brave sitting over there. But up here, looking around at all my Sunday school teachers and all my friends, it's a little intimidating, but I'll muster through. Me and Kelly were sitting up here a while ago, and we were talking about the baptism that was down here underneath the wooden floor. Now, when you were 12 years old at this church, and you wanted to be baptized, you had to know the love of the Lord to climb down in this hole down here in the dark. It was a whole situation. So I tell this to kind of round out my story on the end here, but after I was baptized, my mom was like, which y'all don't know me, I'm very hyper, I was very ADHD, but my mom said, Stephanie, do you think it took? I said, Mom? I said, yes, it took. I said, I was crying when I came out, Mama, and I said, I really felt the Lord in my heart. And she goes, okay. And I know she walked off and went, I know she did. But anyway, I thank all you women here that had a part in growing my foundation, because I have had to stand on that rock a lot of times. And life is just hard. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. You're going to go through a hard time. So my story today that I was telling them about, my daughter moved back home, and she was working in Wichita, and I said two things. Don't fall in love, and don't fall in love with an airman, because they'll move you away. Well, she did both in 2 weeks. So she's living in Las Vegas now. So luckily, my mom bringing me to church every Sunday, me and Kelly took our kids to church every Sunday. So they were raised with a good foundation. And he's a wonderful, wonderful man. He's a master sergeant in the Air Force. He's a protector, he's a provider, and she does no wrong. I don't agree with that, but she does no wrong. And that's just the way you want it to be. But when he came and he asked for her hand in marriage, I said, I want my grandchildren to grow up in a Christian home. I want my grandchildren to go to church. And he said, I promise you, I will do that. I said, okay. So they just started going to church about a month ago. And Katie's been kind of working on him and talking to him and explaining to him how the Lord really works, because he grew up in a really different situation where what he came out with was that it was all about money. And Katie's like, no, that's not all about money. God is not about money. So she's kind of had to start from scratch, but they go to church a couple weeks ago, and he says, the preacher's praying, and he says, if you want a better relationship with Jesus, just pray that in your heart. So he did. And he said he wanted Jesus in his heart. And he said the prayer, and on the way home, he said, Katie, I said that prayer. And she said, good, I'm so glad. So on their way home, he said, my family never comes to visit. My family never calls. And he said, I just wish my family would have more to do with me. So he gets home, and his younger brother's there and stays for 2 weeks. His other brother called, his best friend called, his mom called, and he went to Katie and he goes, I don't know what's happening. I'm not scared. But she said, he was just white as a sheet. And she said, you asked Jesus to come into your heart and to be with you. He's your helper. He's going to help you. He's going to give you the desires of your heart. So in a few minutes, his dad called that he hadn't seen in 3 years. And he said, I'm at your gate. I need your gate code to get in. So he looked at Katie. He goes, I don't even know what's happening. So they were in the Word, and he slams his Bible closed. He said, I don't even know what to do with this. And Katie said, just grab onto it because it's going to be a good ride. So I'm so glad she was there for him. So he wasn't afraid. He opens the Bible and lays it down, and it says Daniel, and that's his name. And it says Daniel, the man they call Dan. And Katie says, you call me Dan? And she said, yeah. So a lot of miracles happened in one day that overwhelmed him to the point to where they go to church every Sunday now. And he's in the Word. And I'm just so blessed that that happened. And I love that story. And I'm not sure I was supposed to repeat it, but I did anyway. But the baptism story was, I know his feeling. You're not scared. You're a little overwhelmed, and you're excited, and you have that warm, fuzzy feeling going on the inside. So I know what he was having that day because I had it one day when I came out of this baptism here. I had some paper over there in my Bible. Kelly, can you bring me that? Bring me my Bible. She's my backup. She's my everything. They wanted me to share a couple other stories. Bring me my glasses too, Kelly. See, I'm so dysfunctional. If I sneeze, she goes, what do you need? Okay. So, the verse that I wanted to kind of highlight on today was, delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Now, I'm not going to go through this and act like my life has been great. It's not. We nearly lost my mom. I've been sitting on the side of the road before with a wrecked pickup, a 3-year-old, and a suitcase in my hand with nowhere to go, no job. So the only person that I could call to help me was Kelly. And she let me live with her for a few weeks till I got my life in order. So, but I wanted to share these stories today because they're kind of funny and they're kind of fun. So one of them was, my daughter was in college, and I was working 2 or 3 jobs to put my daughter through college, and I had wanted, now this is silly, y'all. This is just silly, but the Lord has a sense of humor, and y'all need to hear this. So I had wanted this table for like 7 years. It was so pretty, couldn't afford it. My daughter was in college, didn't need it, but I thought, oh my gosh, I just love that table. So God said, clean off that back porch. Clean off the back porch. So I went out there and I cleaned off the back porch. And my husband goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm cleaning off the back porch because this is where that red table should go. He said, go buy it. I said, no, I don't have the money for that. And it's silly. And it's unnecessary. So he said, okay. So I cleaned up my back porch. The next day on Trading Post, that table was for sale for nearly nothing. And I went and got that table, and I had it on that porch when he got home. And he said, where did that come from? I said, that's my Jesus table. That's how that works. And speaking of little things and funny things and miracles that God does, I mean, he loves us so much. You don't have to go around and say, God, I really would like to have that. He knows what you're thinking, and I think he just wants to know that you've got a good heart and you love him with all your heart, and I really think he'll do great things for you. You just have to recognize them and notice that was God. Because a lot of times I feel like he looks down at me and he goes, wink, I did that, and I love that. I love that. As a matter of fact, today, we drove up in a miracle. My pickup is 14 years old, and I love her. She's not too cute, but last year, she got a rattle, and it was so bad. I took it to 2 or 3 mechanics. I'm like, oh, you need a new motor. You got to have a new motor. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy a new motor for this pickup. The RPMs are fine. It hauls my gooseneck trailer. We're good. I don't need a motor. But I didn't know what was wrong with it. So I put my hand on the dash, and I said, God, I don't know what's wrong with this pickup, but I know you've got it. And that thing rattled for 10 months. And I don't know if that was a test. I don't know what that was, but every day I got in it, most people would be embarrassed, to drive down the road with something as loud as what I was driving. And every once in a while, Satan would try to creep in, and he would go, "How embarrassing." I'd hear him say, "How embarrassing. Aren't you just embarrassed to drive around in this pickup?" And I said, "No, I'm not, because God's got it. It started this morning, and we're good. Everything's working, we're good." 10 months later, whatever rattled stopped. The lights went off. It works like $1,000,000. I'm still driving my miracle. So there's lots of things like that that happen that I can look back on, and I don't know why God blesses me with the silly things, but He does, and I could never repay Him. But one thing that I thought of last night when I was kind of going over a few of these things, I thought, God knows that I'm a total mess. He knows that I'm fun, I'm a little bit crazy, I'm dysfunctional, I have to take my sister everywhere I go. So He knows that. So I think He does fun little things for me, because that's kind of my personality. So anyway, I wanted to leave y'all with a few things today. And a lot of this is kind of Joyce Myers inspired. When fear knocks, let your faith answer the door. God always shows up during suffering. Live by and walk by faith. God doesn't love us for the things that we do or the things that we haven't done. He loves us because that's what He is. He is love, and love alone. And my favorite one is the love we have inside us is measured by how we treat others. So that is probably the most important thing. If I've said anything today, that's the most important thing. God is love, and His love shines through us. And it's always good. Everybody's always having a bad day. Forgive them. Walk on. Because we all have bad days. We don't know what's going on in everyone else's life. We don't know how many hearts are broken in this room today. But just show love, and love covers everything. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Wasn't that powerful? Isn't that exciting? Like Stefanie, the Lord always surprises me and does some great things as far as provision goes. And I did not understand that when I was a new believer. I worked hard, I had a career, yada, yada. I was just used to pulling up my bootstraps and doing it myself. And so I was very prideful, and I will admit that. But I'm telling you that as we learn to lean on the Lord and not on our own understanding, that He will bring those miracles of provision. He will save you more money than you can ever imagine. You don't have to find another job sometimes, because He can give it to you in a supernatural way. We have to begin to listen to His heart. And like she cleaned off her porch in obedience. That was her little altar. Had she not cleaned off her porch, I wonder would she have gotten that new table from Jesus, right? Because sometimes we have to just say no to the enemy. The enemy will tell us. The enemy will tell us, the Lord's not going to do that. Who are you? What are you thinking? Who are you fooling? Because He is the father of lies. That is His job. He'll never change.